Kennen Sie sprechen Deutsch?
Nein. So, guten Tag miteinander.
Verreikte Sternenkeim, nicht laufen heute verreckt, Herrgottskeim.
Es gibt Leute, die würden alle die Wege nie.
Ich gehe mit dem, und wenn ich auf 0 Franken auf dem Armenrecht muss mit dem, ich gehe vor mit dem, wo ich will.
Hey, sorry, ich habe gespritzt.
Snijpüti.
Nein, Angst und Geld habe ich keine.
Was unterscheidet Menschen vom Schimpans?
Kappen schauen, Mann. Sie muss da reinschauen, Herz.
Bijassen und Schafsäckchen.
So sieht man wirklich schwarz, nicht nur rot.
Ausländer muss pass auf in Engelberg, weil Engelberg ist mein Land.
Und was man noch hoffen ist allein, dass sie heim mich gehen.
Was hast du so erlebt, du hure Banane?
Die berühmten, feinen Mohrenköpfe.
Sali, heute zusammen und grüezi miteinander. Welcome to the 11th edition of the Swiss-German Initiative. My name is Fabian. Before we begin, as usual, some administrative information. And to appease the YouTube algorithm, please leave a like and subscribe. Usually I present at this point how to get onto the stream. So if you want that information, simply look it up in the last episodes. But one thing I always forgot to mention is the privacy and or anonymity. See, I highly value anonymity on the internet, and therefore this is for me it's a given, and that's why I never realized that people could be afraid to get onto the stream because they have a fear of doxing themselves or presenting information they are not comfortable with. So to solve this, we could actually pre-record the conversation and I will send it to you so you could, or I could remove all the parts you're not comfortable with. And another thing, you can present yourself under a fake name or something like that and use throwaway accounts. So it gets really hard to trace back to you, and like that, anonymity is kind of given. So let's start with the episode.
People say Swiss people are xenophobic. And to be fair, they came up with a perfect way to figure out within a second if you belong here or not. And that is Swiss German, ladies and gentlemen. There's also dialects in Switzerland, right? There's the Bern dialect, there's the St. Galliner accent, Zürich Deutsch. All this stuff is manufactured, so a Swiss person, as soon as you say hi, they know exactly where you live. Profiling and discrimination has never been this easy.
Well, this is actually not really a joke, but it doesn't take a hello, it takes 30 seconds to 2 minutes. I had a situation once that I walked into the store or into a store in the mountains and I said, hello. And the employee approached me and said, wie kann ich Ihnen helfen? I looked at him bewildered and said, jetzt aber nicht im Ernst, oder? So, what's going on in a sense how you're talking to me? His response was, oh, sorry, and brought me a coffee. So yes, if you want to be Swiss, you need to be able to talk Swiss German, or Swiss German in the German speaking parts. Anyway, let's start with this segment. As there is this continuous mentioning of the xenophobic Swiss and the vote for the 10 million initiative is coming up in June, I thought to address this point and show a bit of the Swiss mindset when it comes to this topic. So, Switzerland, the country with the highest amount of migration per capita, had a vote on Sunday, the 28th of November in 2010, which was called the Ausschaffungsinitiative, where the aim was to make deportations of criminal foreigners easier. The initiative was launched by the SVP, where they put out the poster, which in Swiss German we would call Plakat, on the lower right. Now, as you can see, it's a white sheep kicking out a black sheep, which was deemed racist by the left. The point here is that the term schwarze Schaf in Swiss German means the odd one out, but in a negative manner. So if you say you're the black sheep of the family, so schwarze Schaf voor de Familie, it means that you're the odd one out of the family, which does something negatively, which can mean from the standpoint of behaving in a certain manner or being financially stable, up to being a criminal and so forth. Now, because one sheep is white and the other is black, the left started screaming racism, as they see it as a representation of black and white people, and therefore as a metaphor to kick black people out of the country. Well, I know at least one person who disagrees. But jokes aside, let's look at, excuse me, let's look why the Swiss think this way. If we have a look at the numbers from 2024, here we have 58% of all offenses which relate to the Strafgesetzbuch were done by foreigners. It will look even worse if we will boil it down or filter by the background, or where we migrated from. But that's too far for this presentation. Now think the other two are irrelevant, because as a libertarian, offenses against the Betäubungsmittelgesetz, which basically means taking drugs, shouldn't even exist because it's a victimless crime. And offenses against the Ausländergesetz are obviously done by foreigners, or more by foreigners than by Swiss people. So yeah, we don't look at this. Now, it's even worse if you look at the incarcerations, where depending on the year, it's always around 70%. And as we have so many articles and publications about how violent men are, so I thought to present some numbers to put this a little bit in perspective. Now, I couldn't find any graphics except from the SVP and some right-wing sources. So the one on the top right is cases where people were accused. But if we compare with the passage from the report from the Eidgenössische Büro für Gleichstellung, so the Office for Equality, meaning equality for men and women, you see that the graphic is actually correct, and not only for accusations, but for all of the cases. Foreigners have 3 to 4 times more domestic violence charges than Swiss people. And to make matters even worse, foreign women even do more offenses than Swiss men. So yeah, the next time you see an article about this topic, that if men are blamed for domestic violence, it's either ideological or for political reasons, rather than reality. So enough for this premise. Let's switch to how the Swiss mindset works when it comes to foreigners and different ethnicity, races, and cultures and so forth. Here we have Globy, the main protagonist from the children's book with the same name. Globy always travels to other countries and visits institutions and so forth, and then he has some adventures where they try to put a description into the story as to explain the spot he visits. He was created for the 25-year anniversary for the store Globus, hence his name Globy. Now, I chose the description racist turned woke because that's what he was accused of. So let's have a look why. So racist by the left because of old material that was produced, and woke by the right because of new age books. Anyway, now I can't even read the title of this page on YouTube because it will give me a strike. But if somebody from another country, especially an American, sees this title, he will think, this is racist. But the thing is, around the 70s or 80s, this was the regular term for a black person. Because it simply stems from the Latin, from the term black. And it's not that Switzerland didn't have its own version of slavery. We simply had better marketing, and therefore we called it Leibeigen or Knechtschaft. But none of them were outsiders, so we don't really have the link between slaves and black people. And therefore the N-word wasn't associated with slavery at all. And as well, Slavery stems from Slav, so there is absolutely no connection for us. Now let's have a look what Globy does. The Globy books to this day are made like this. You have a text which rhymes and some illustrations to support the text. Now here I'm going to read the text in Swiss German. I will not do the translation into English because I think in the last episodes this led to more errors from my side. And I say the text is here. So yeah, simply if you don't understand something, put it in Google Translate or something like that, and you get your answer. Now, before I start, I wanted to address the ways one could look at this. Now, one way would be in a childlike manner, another is cultural, and the last one will be a politically correct view. Now, for a childish one, playing is the most important thing for a child. And if two children meet, if they like each other, they likely will play just together. So seeing this through this lens or through a lens of a child's eyes, it's simply, hey, you have rings, let's play catch. If we look at this through a cultural lens, it could be seen like playing with a cultural symbol and therefore disliked, or to make matters even worse, people would die if you remove those rings from the necks, because stretched necks aren't supported anymore by the vertebrae. They're supported by the rings. Therefore, a person would simply die. But the people during those times, they didn't know anything about this. And there wasn't like an internet or so forth that you could simply Google it and have a look what it actually means. And again, this is a children's book, so the answer would be, yeah, let's play with it. But I wouldn't really see it as hateful because it was simply seen as strange and they didn't know the cultural implications. Now, the political correct view today would be that there is no consideration about the culture and therefore it's racist and Globy hates them because he plays with their symbols and so forth. And yeah, this couldn't be farther from the truth. And as well, you will see the conclusion in the next slide. But let's go through, I will simply read line by line. And doing this, I will translate it directly into Swiss German. Globy kommt beim Welttrotten ins Land von der Hottentotten. Heiß drückt da der Sonnenhauch und langweilig ist's auch. Das wirkt lähmend und ist schließlich auf die Dauer höchst verdrießlich. Globy jedoch liebt den Schwung, drum sucht Betätigung. Ei, wer kommt denn da befangen, rasselnd mit viel Blech behangen? Klar, man sieht's ganz genau, hottentotte Frau. Globy winkt ihr mit dem Finger, deutet auf die Messingdinger und fragt schließlich kurz und schlicht, gibt's ein Spieli oder nicht? Sie nickt schüchtern, meinetwegen, Globy aber nicht verlegen, streift die Ring grad vom Hals, das wird lustig allenfalls. Und schon spielt sie ohne Bange, auf Distanz die Zielwurfstange, Globy wirft und trifft bereits, ja, der Spaß ist beiderseits. And now if you have a look at the next slide, you see that although for today's lens the wrong words are used, this stems from a loving attitude. And I'll read it again in Swiss German. So, und auch da im Urwald leben, wird das Jungvolk mich umgeben. Alle lieben, piep, sollen mir willkommen sein. So, you see here, loving, and every one of them should be welcomed. even if it's through a wrong lens or used with the wrong words and so forth. It's a loving message. It's a message to stick together, to have a good time, and so forth. So there is no hatred in this at all. Now let's get to the New Age woke part. Now, here a tiny side note. Not sure how many years ago, but I started hearing the term grass fed beef from American sources. And at first I was confused because for me it was like, duh, cows are grass fed. And therefore, why would anyone even need this specification? Then I found out that in a lot of countries, cows get fed corn and soya, and not only as a supplement, but regularly, blah, 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 which isn't the case in Switzerland. Now, this is true for pigs, but unlike cows where you can just let them graze, pigs need to be fed anyway. So, yeah, this is weird. But anyway, let's read the text in Swiss German. And it's a text marked in red. And unfortunately, I couldn't find this page without the cutoff, and I don't own it. So, yeah, I have to rely on this picture. So, Kühe, wundert sich der Globi. Ich habe gedacht, die fressen Gras. Nicht nur. 80% von ihrer Ernährung besteht aus Körner oder, not sure what's there, Soja. Beides enthalten viel Eiweiß. Im Körper der Kuh wird das Eiweiß später in Fleisch und Milch umgewandelt. Der Globi denkt nach. Schließlich sagt er, in Schweizer Milch, Käse und Fleisch steckt also ein Stück Regenwald. Es sieht leider so aus, sagt Marielle. So, simply a blatant lie. It's not true. It's Swiss cows are mostly grass-fed, and this is simply some vegan propaganda or something to make it look like cows are bad for the environment and so forth. So, this brings me to the next one. Let me present the polarizing figure of Christoph Wolfram Blocher. Loved by the right, hated by the left. Now, I will not incorporate my opinion, except one thing, that he's an exceptionally good debater. Now, I have him in because he said the following during an interview in 2020.
Aber jetzt beim Mohrenkopf ist es genau gleich. Wir haben doch niemand der denkt, wir essen den Kopf von einem Neger.
Well, so it seems like the Mohrenkopf is the most polarizing thing we had in politics in the last couple of years. And as I explained in earlier episodes, if you say to a Swiss he cannot use a word, you'll get what Blocher said or what you see right now on the screen. Now, when it comes to politically correct, the German word would even be worse than the Swiss one, because the German word was, or they stopped using it, but it's an N-word kiss. And now they call it them Schokoküsse. And now, the thing that I find weird is that Mohrenkopf are considered good and a liked thing. And a kiss, even if it's from an N-word, would be as well a good and a liked thing, because it's sweet and you want to have it. So, apart from the wording, in my book, I would consider this an honor. And as well, if this picture bugs you, ask yourself why this bugs you, but it's fine if you have this in a production from Hollywood. I think the difference should always be, is there a negative intent? If not, it should be a free-for-all. And not taking oneself too serious should be a normal position anyway, because not doing it makes it worse for everyone. Now, as I said, in Switzerland, it's the debate about the Mohrenkopf, where it said that the Moor is a derogatory term. So let's listen to a clip from Germany about this, which I think could be used as an allegory for the entire debate.
ein Lebensmittel nach einer Bevölkerungsgruppe zu benennen, die keine Stimme hatte zu der Zeit und nicht sagen konnte, also uns passt das nicht, einfach darüber hinwegzusehen und zu sagen, den Begriff benutze ich immer noch, weil obwohl ich gehört habe, dass sich Leute davon angegriffen fühlen, ist meiner Meinung nach in der heutigen Zeit nicht mehr tragbar.
Sie wollen dazu was sagen?
Also, es wird jetzt manche überraschen, aber ich finde, du sprichst jetzt nicht für mich, ehrlich gesagt. Das Thema Mohrenapotheke finde ich ein sehr interessantes Thema. Ich hatte mich damit vor ein paar Jahren befasst, weil mir das auch aufgefallen ist, dass viele Apotheken so heißen. Und wenn man sich tatsächlich mal damit befasst, dann hat der Kollege das genau richtig erklärt. Damals war das so, zum Zeiten des Osmanischen Reiches zum Beispiel, Avicenna zum Beispiel, Gelehrten und so weiter. Damals war es so, dass das Zentrum der Forschung, gerade wissenschaftlich im Gesundheitsbereich, lag nun mal tatsächlich in genau dem Bereich, was der Kollege auch gesagt hat. Und insofern sehe ich das auch als Wertschätzung an. Klar, man kann sagen, der Begriff hat sich verändert in der Verwendung und so. Das muss aber jeder für sich entscheiden. Also ich sehe das bei der Mohrenapotheke, wenn ich jetzt an einer vorbeigehe, dann empfinde ich das halt, ich will jetzt nicht sagen, ich identifiziere mich damit, aber ich sehe das eher als Wertschätzung.
Und wie ist das im Falle vom Schokokuss?
Das ist mir ehrlich gesagt egal. Also mir geht es eher darum, wie behandelt mich jemand. Da ist mir das Wort jetzt vielleicht gar nicht so wichtig. Und ich sehe es schon im Zusammenhang, wie hat jemand ein Wort gelernt? Also ist jemand mit diesem Wort einfach als normales Wort aufgewachsen sozusagen, dann kann ich damit leben.
Now, if you go to Wikipedia and read the article about the Moors, you will read the following. Again, I will translate it directly into Swiss German. Moor ist eine veraltete deutschsprachige Bezeichnung für einen dunkelhäutigen Afrikaner. Historisch hat man damit zunächst die Mauren als Bewohner vom antiken und mittelalterlichen Nordafrika bezeichnet. Bereits im Mittelalter aber auch schon verallgemeinernd für Menschen mit dunkler Hautfarbe. Ab dem 16. Jahrhundert zunehmend in dieser erweiterten Bedeutung. Das Wort wird nur noch selten verwendet. Und wenn, dann im historischen oder literarischen Zusammenhang oder als Teil von einer Bezeichnung, zum Beispiel als Wappenfigur in der Heraldik. Die Bezeichnung und das Bild vom Mohren findet außerdem Eingang in zahlreiche Folgebezeichnungen. Zum Beispiel im Bereich der Fauna und Flora. Bildliche Darstellungen vom Moor dienen als Unternehmenslogo und in der Werbung für bestimmte Produkte, aber auch im Rahmen unterschiedlicher Brüche oder von unterschiedlichen Brüchen. Im 21. Jahrhundert haben mehrere Unternehmen ihre Figuren verändert. Seit etwa 1960 wird auf die Zwiespaltigkeit vom Wort zwischen historischer Entwicklung und Verwendung als stereotypische Bezeichnung hingewiesen, die eine bestimmte Vorstellung von einem Schwarzen weckt, was zu einer Diskussion um den rassistisch diskriminierenden Charakter geführt hat. The first time I heard that you shouldn't use the word more was when there was a debate about if names should be changed which include more, such as Mohrenkopf. For me, since I was a kid, and that's not me in the picture by the way, I thought it's simply an old term and I could never ever imagine that it would be seen as derogatory. As one of the three wise men, which are called in German die drei heilige Könige, so the three holy kings. And one of them is a Moor, or is called Moor. So he is a holy Moor. And in my understanding, if something is considered holy, it cannot be derogatory. And yeah, so that was really weird for me to hearing that Moor, yeah, it's a bad word and so forth. And another thing which is kind of ironic is that the three kings were considered to be magi or magi, which is the priestly class from the Medes or Medes, or however you pronounce them. and the mates were Aryans. So Khoshbar, the black one, would be an Aryan Moor. So yeah, another reason to know about history and how things changed and so forth, and how institutions have, I say, an incentive to change meaning of words. So you take away the history of people. And another thing is, in the last episode, I mentioned the trade takeover by Jesus. And if one would believe Herodotus, the Aryans from the specific region renamed themselves to Medes or Medes. And this was done after Medea. So at the play Medea, if you know that. And Medea in itself would be the promiscuous woman from Babylon. So the whole story goes full circle. Anyway, if you live in Switzerland, share our words, customs, and traditions. But always remember that Schmutzli isn't black. He was originally just a demon who snatched some kids. With that being said, let's check if there are any questions. If we don't have any questions, this would be it for today. And just FYI, I will probably need 3 weeks till the next episode because I have a lot of work to do. So I will check it right now. Well, doesn't seem that there are questions on Reddit and nothing additional on YouTube. So I wish you a nice evening and goodbye.